I'm pretty sure you guys have already seen the news, but Javier Milei has just won the presidency in Argentina. And this is not really surprising, to be honest, because he was leading the polls into this runoff, and there was a lot of support behind him. He is an interesting character, to say the least, and he's kind of, a lot of people have compared him to Trump. He's kind of the far-right candidate who has some pretty interesting ideas on how to fix the many problems in Argentina, specifically the economy. And the reason I want to talk about it today and want to kind of have a quick take on this is because he is against the BRICS. So if you guys remember or recall or still have it in your mind, because it might still be fresh, the BRICS meeting happened a couple months back. I think it was in August. And they invited Argentina to join the BRICS along with some other countries. And so everybody was, excited. It's the second largest economy in South America. But Javier, he said that he would not join the BRICS. That was one of the things that he said when it came up during his campaign and when he was running for presidency. He said, I won't join the BRICS. I guess he doesn't agree with the policy, or he doesn't agree with the bloc, or he thinks that going with the Americans and with the U.S. currency is a better idea. Because one of his big policies, or one of his big kind of campaign promises or ideas, was that he would end the Argentinian peso. He'll discontinue it, he'll shut down the central bank, and then he will switch the currency over to the U.S. dollar, which is very interesting. There are a few countries around the world that use U.S. dollars instead of or alongside of their local currency. It's quite surprising, but because they've been dealing with inflation for years and years and years, and wild inflation too. Like, I was seeing a stat that said inflation in this past year, like 2023, was something like 142% or 150%, like wild amount of inflation. And some months it's like 200% inflation, which means you can't save any money because the money's devaluing so quickly. So his grand idea, or his big idea, is to switch to the US dollar, where we all know inflation is a little bit more controlled. I mean, we still have inflation with the US dollar because they've been printing so much, but the idea is he'll switch his economy. I'm not sure how he's going to get US dollars and enough of them to circulate in his economy, but he's going to switch to the US dollar. That was one of his big promises. He was also very pro-gun. Some of his policies were going to allow for more gun ownership. I'm not sure what this gun issue is or the situation is in Argentina, but usually more guns lead to more violence, more problems, so we'll see how that plays out in the next couple of years. But the big thing is he doesn't want to join BRICS. So where will that leave the BRICS? There's still time. The final decision has to be made in January. And so there is still time. A lot of times when politicians run, they run on certain promises that they don't always keep. The idea behind it is they need support. So if he's saying something like, I'm going to fix the economy by destroying the economy, essentially, I'm not sure what his big plan is, and then adopting the US dollar, I'm not sure if that's going to work. To be honest, it probably won't. And there'll probably be more problems trying to transition over and more pain for the Argentinian people than if they actually tried to solve some of the problems that are plaguing the economy. Just burning your cash and hoping that another also inflated currency will help. I'm not an economist. I don't know. I mean, to me it sounds a bit crazy because there's a lot of other things that possibly could be done to solve that problem. One, you could work with BRICS to help manage that. You could create a new currency that is either based on a blockchain or have some block like the BRICS buy your current debt from the IMF and then refinance it, so to say, so that it's not so burdensome. Because that's really what happened. The IMF lent a lot of money. Argentina defaulted. When they defaulted on those loans, that debt trap that was set by the IMF, International Monetary Fund, IMF, when my mind is on something else with a different acronym, you'll find out about that later. But anyways, the IMF is the one that's basically put them in this situation because they lent them a lot of money and then Argentina couldn't pay that back. They defaulted and then their economy imploded because their currency became less and less valuable because they couldn't pay off their debts. And then it's just this big spiral that America is maybe looking at in the next decade, where the same thing will happen, where they can't pay off their debt and then it just spirals out of control. That's why switching to the US dollar now seems a little bit, I wouldn't say pointless, but kind of like you're going to go through a decade of pain switching over to a currency that isn't necessarily going to be the strongest currency in the next 50 years. So I'm not sure if he's setting the economy up for some failure when they have an out potentially with the BRICS, where there would be potential options to discuss how they could refinance that debt or how they could get debt assistance from that bloc. But this is what he ran on. 56% of the people voted for him, roughly. So they've decided that this is what they want to try. This, unfortunately, is very much the anti-establishment vote when you're so fed up with what you've been given for the last 20 years, because the current party that's in power that is going to be going out have been in power for about 20 years and they didn't solve the problems. And so people got so fed up that they said, we're willing to try this guy because at least he has new ideas, or at least he's going to attempt something. It'll be interesting to see if he accepts the BRICS invitation at the beginning of next year. He said he won't. He probably won't. He seems to be considering the U.S. has a potential out for his problems or for the country's problems. It'll be interesting to see, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays into the rest of the BRICS. Is this just growing pains where, sure, they'll invite 10 nations and, 7 of them show up, and that's kind of how it goes? Or is this going to be something more where more countries will reject the BRICS? I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is a very unique case, and I think because of their economic issues, they are willing to try to work with the IMF in the United States to solve that problem, even though they've been trying to solve it for at least 20 years, if not longer. But that's just my quick take. It's interesting to see where this goes because he is quite a interesting character and his policies are more far right. And, I wish the country the best of luck. I hope they didn't get bamboozled by his rhetoric. This is one of the major problems with democracies, is somebody can come in and say they're going to do something, get elected, and then either not do it, or in some cases, they do it, and it's even worse because the people who voted were just fed up and they didn't actually understand the policies or the situation or the steps needed to move out of that situation, and they just voted for the guy that made them feel something in the moment. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that, one, Argentina will still join the BRICS? And two, what do you think about the future of Argentina with this new president? Do you think things are going to improve? Or do you think things are just going to get worse, and regardless of who they elected, it was going to get worse? And it's one of those things where it has to get a lot worse before it can get better. Leave a comment below because I do find it interesting, and this is something that when I was talking about BRICS in a previous video, many of you guys jumped on and said may not happen because of the presidential election. And now that it's been settled, I'd love to hear your opinion. If you think he's going to go through with all his policies that are a bit extreme, or if you think that was just a lot of rhetoric around campaigning, and once he's in power, things will change. All right, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next video.